Hello friends, welcome back once again to another new video. So we have been discussing about mapping different Java beans using Mapstruct. Till now we have seen how to map the beans which contains only primitive data type. But in real world application, in most of the cases, our Java classes contains another classes or child class. Okay, so today we'll learn how to map child entities by using Mapstruct. Clear? So let's get started. For this, let me go to my workspace. So this is the project we have created last time, Spring Boot with Mapstruct demo. So far we have seen how to do a basic mapping and how to map uh, two Java beans which are different field names. Okay. So if I open any of my Java classes, let's say contact. Here you can see we have only the primitive data types like ID, first name, last name, email and phone number. Okay. But in most of the cases in our real world applications, we have Java classes which contain another child classes inside it. Like if I open employee, see, so this is the employee classes I have created. Here if you mark here, we have some primitive data type like ID, name, email and salary. Also it contains one child class, that is department. Okay, so this employee to department, we have many to one mapping I have used here, Hibernate mapping. So I don't want to go in details about this mapping. I hope you know how we can do Hibernate mapping between the entity classes. Okay, here employee to department is many to one mapping. That means many employees can belong to one department. Okay, similarly if I go to department class here, so inside department I have two field only, ID and department name. Okay, here department to employee is one to many mapping. Clear? One department have many employees. Correct? So this is nothing but the Hibernate mapping, how we can map to entity class by using Hibernate. So I don't want to go in details about this mapping. So we'll focus on the mapping of Mapstruct only. So here I have also created one data transfer object for employee, that is employee DTO. Let me open employee DTO. So here also in employee DTO, I have some primitive data like employee ID, employee name, email, salary and department name. Okay, clear. So this is my employee DTO. Now we will map this employee DTO to employee by using Mapstruct. So as you know, I have already mentioned we need to create a mapper interface to map using Mapstruct. Okay, so I have already created one mapper as well, that is employee mapper, mark here. So inside employee mapper, I annotated this class as @mapper so that at the compile time it will create the implementation for this employee mapper. Correct? So here I have two method like two entity which converts employee DTO to employee and two DTO which converts employee entity to employee DTO object. Okay. So how we can map this one? So I have already said if I go to this employee DTO, I have here employee ID. Correct. But here if I go to employee, I have also ID. In employee DTO, I have employee name, but inside employee, I have only name. Okay. That means I need to give the source and target for this name field. Okay. This is nothing but how we can map two bins which is having different field names. So here in employee bin, I have name, but inside my employee DTO, I have EMP name. So I need to give the source and target mapping. So I need to explicitly tell Mapstruct to take this source and map it to this target. So how I can do this? Let me simply go to my employee mapper and here add the @mapping annotation. Okay, I hope you remember these things. How we can map two classes which have different fields name. Okay, so here I can simply put source is equal to comma target is equal to. Correct. So here source is employee DTO. So inside employee DTO I have employee name. So let me put here employee name and in target I'll put what? I'll put what is inside employee entity class. So inside employee entity I have name. So I can put it name. Understood? Also in employee DTO I have EMP ID and in employee I have ID. So I can also put another mapping for it. Let me put it here. So this is my emp source is what? Emp id and target is only id. Correct? Understood? Then another thing just marks. So here in employee DTO I have department name. Okay. So this department name is present inside this department child class. If I go to this, see. So this is the department which is a child class of employee. So inside this department I have department name. Understood? So now I will provide the mapping like this. Just mark this line. This is important point. So mapping. So my source is employee DTO. So inside employee DTO I have department name. So Control C. Inside source I can put department name and target is employee. But inside employee it is not a direct field of employee object. It is present inside department child class. Okay. So if I go to this department child class, here I can see department name is present. So I can write like this. In the target I can write this department. This is present inside this department child class dot which field? Department name, the depth name. Okay. I can just copy this one and put it over here. Clear? Okay. So this dot annotation is used over here. Understood? Similarly, I can convert employee to employee DTO object. So let me just copy paste whole things and change the source target. So here source is employee and target is employee DTO. So inside employee I have name. Okay. So I can put it here name and here in the target I can put employee name. Okay. And here source is ID and in target employee ID. Because here my target is employee DTO. Understood? Now department name similarly I can exchange this target here. So this is my source and my target is what? Department name. Understood so far? So if I go to my implementation class for this employee mapper, as you know, we are using @mapper. So that means Mapstruct will by default create one implementation class for this employee mapper at the compile time. So if I go to my target folder, inside target, we have generate sources, then annotation. Inside this annotation, we have a package and we have this implementation class for employee mapper. See, employee mapper implementation which implements employee mapper. Here you can see two entity method is created and two DTO method is created. Clear so far? So I have also one controller for this employee controller to save the employee object and to fetch employee by ID. Here I auto add the employee service. Inside my employee service I have the logic to save the employee. If I go there in save employee method, it accepts employee DTO and we are using employee mapper here. Employee mapper to entity. Okay. And pass this employee DTO. So it will return employee object. Okay. This two entity object will return what? This two entity will return employee object and we will save this employee in our database. Correct? Employee repository.save method we are using. Then it will save this employee to our database. Similarly, when we have a get employee by ID method as well, get employee by ID, if I go there, find by ID, against that ID, we'll find a record from our database and we'll map this employee record to DTO by using employee mapper to DTO method. Okay. So this to DTO method will convert employee object to employee DTO. Understood? Or else if we'll not get any value against this ID, then we'll just simply return this empty employee DTO object. Clear? So let me quickly save this application and run it. Okay, so my application up and running on 9090. So let me go to the browser and hit localhost 9090 swagger UI.html as I am integrated Swagger inside this application. So here is my employee controller. Save method is there. Just try it out. Department, let's say I am giving the department like HR and email, let's say xyz@gmail.com, and employee ID, it will be automatically generated, no need to provide this one. Employee name, let's say xyz I am providing, and salary, let's say 50,000 I am providing. Okay, so let me hit execute. So see, I have the response like this: ID, name, email, salary, and inside department ID, department name. Clear? So similarly, if I hit get employee by ID by providing the ID 45, then execute, I'll get the employee DTO object. Clear? So that means our mapping is correct. Okay. This is how we can map the child element as well by using Mapstruct. Okay. So let me do some changes inside my employee DTO. Okay. So let me go to my employee DTO and make some changes here. So let's say inside this employee DTO also I have a nested class. Let me give like this department DTO. Like this I have a child class. Clear? So inside this department DTO I have the ID and department name. So how we can do the mapping? So it is possible. In real life application, we have inside the data transfer object which is coming from the client side, we can add another object, and inside this object we can add our department details. Okay, like ID, department name, or any other field you can add inside department DTO. Correct? So for now we have only two fields, ID and department name. Then how we can map this one? So it will throw us the error because we have changed the department DTO. Now it is not the direct element. Department name is not the direct element of employee DTO. Okay, we kept it inside another child element, that is department DTO. Okay, let me just comment out these two things for now. Okay, so for this, we need to create another mapper that converts department to department DTO and department DTO to department. So we have created another DTO, right? Department DTO. So we'll create another mapper which converts the department DTO to department object, department entity object, and department entity to department DTO object. So let me first create another mapper quickly. So that is nothing but our department mapper. Okay. So let me create another mapper, department mapper. Clear? So I'll also annotate this one as @mapper. And as we are using Spring, I can write component model is equal to Spring. Correct? So now I'll write down two methods which will convert to entity and I'll write another method which converts entity to DTO. Okay, so I can name like to DTO. Clear so far? So we have created another mapper which will convert department DTO to department and department to department DTO. So now we will tell our employee mapper to include department mapper as we are working with another class that requires mapping. So whenever we are saving or whenever we are converting two entity, we need to convert or we need to save this department details as well. Okay, so we need to tell Mapstruct now, whenever we are doing the conversion, use this department mapper as well. So that when you do the employee mapper mapping, that will automatically map this department mapping as well. Okay, so how we can do this? How we can tell Mapstruct to use this department mapper inside employee mapper? We can simply use usage is equal to, we can do like this, department mapper dot class. So what happens when implementation for employee mapper will be generated, Mapstruct will automatically convert department to department DTO and vice versa. Okay, as we register this department mapper inside our employee mapper. Understood? So let me rerun the application and check whether our mapping is taking place or not. Okay, so our application started. Let me go to the browser and hit get endpoint only. Okay, let me hit the get endpoint again. So see, if you mark here, employee details are coming, employee ID, employee name, email and salary is coming. But still department detail is not coming here. But we have used the department mapper inside our employee mapper. So ideally it should work. Ideally, while we are fetching the employee DTO, it should automatically fetch the department DTO as well and set it to employee DTO. But it's not happening, right? So at the first stage, I was also wondering why it's not coming. Then I Google for something and find out we need to add another mapping for this department to department DTO because this usage is ignored in our employee mapper. Okay, so we need to add. I mean, this approach works for me, so I hope it will also work for you. So if you have tried any other things, then please let me know in the comment box so that I can also use that one. But these particular things works for me, so I want to show you that one. So I can add another mapping. So here I can provide the source and target like this. Source and target like this. So here my source is employee DTO. So inside employee DTO, I have the department DTO. So I need to convert this department DTO, right? I need to map this department DTO to department and department to department DTO for the other methods. So I can simply copy this department DTO and put it over here. Source department DTO and target is nothing but my department. How I know target is nothing but my department? Because my target is employee. So inside employee I have department. So I need to map to this department. Understood? So likewise also here I can add another mapping. Here my source is department and target is department DTO. Okay. So let me save this one and rerun the application again to check where I am able to get the department DTO data while fetching the employee DTO or not. Okay, so my application started. So now if I go to my browser and hit this endpoint again, I can able to see the department DTO as you see. So it works, this mapping works for me. Okay, I have the employee details as well as department details. Understood? So here Mark, if I go to my implementation class, you can see here inside employee mapper IMPL, this department mapper is automatically auto-add. Okay, earlier it was not there. So when I add this source target mapping, when I add this line and this line here, so inside my employee mapper implementation class, this department mapper is automatically auto-add and see here employee dot set department mapper dot to entity. Now it will pick up to entity method of department mapper. Okay. So here to DTO method of department mapper. Okay. So we saw how we can map the nested child entities using Mapstruct. So hope you like this video. See you in my next video. In my next video, I will show you how we can map different source to one target. Okay. Where we have the multiple source classes and we need to aggregate data from that multiple source classes to create one target or to create one response class. Okay. So till then, thanks for watching. Thank you.